But I hope at the end of the class, we'll learn how to memorize. I have heard many of my students say that I'm on stage and I forget my lines. Before I speak, okay, I prepared so well. I had done my stuff, done my rehearsals. In the room, I used the recorder because one of the ways to practice in speaking, to make yourself better, is to listen to your voice on the recorder. And I want to encourage you to do that a lot because it will help you to become better. You have a recorder, you record your voice. Why do you record your voice? I tell you, I say you record your voice because you want to check out for your vocal variety, what we call prosody or inflection, or how you express yourself. Your voice should demonstrate various shades of meaning. So that when you're speaking, I should know that you're feeling excited there, you're doing this. It's like a palette where different colors, you paint different things, they have different colors on that stuff, and then you're using it on the Canva. In the same vein, your voice, your vocal variety is when you're able to literally bend your voice or manipulate your voice. So it's very important to understand that when you use your recorder, what you're actually doing is that you are checking for your vocal variety. Another thing that you're doing when you're checking at your tonality is that you're checking for your diction and grammar. And we usually assess you based on your diction and grammar. You're also checking for gap fillers. I use gap fillers still, but I'm learning how to reduce my gap fillers as I speak. So gap fillers, you use the recorder to do that. You can use Anchor FM to train yourself. The more you use, and then also to check out for your projection, to check out for your articulation, to check out for your elocution. All of that's important when you speak. So use the recorder. So people do all of that. They do use the recorder and they also use a mirror. The mirror is also another tool we use in public speaking to check for our body language, for our facial expressions. We can also use a video camera to check for all of that. But the challenge is you've done all of that rehearsals, then you now go on the stage and then you have a challenge of forgetting what you're saying. It can be very terrible. It can be very amusingly terrible. And it's not one experience I want you as a speaker to have. That's why I called for this very brief meeting. You don't want to have that experience as a speaker. You can be given a very important function and your leaders are available, the management staff is available, and because you're not prepared, you just mess the whole thing up. So how do you go about arranging your memory? We also want to talk about, it could happen right in the middle of a presentation. You've done so well, you're doing so well, and then all of a sudden, you have forgotten one particular line you're trying to remember. And because you're forgotten that line, you literally skip it. You literally skip it and go into other things. And then when you're done with your presentation, you're like, oh, I should have said this, I've forgotten. So what do you do to get yourself to remember before you present? Get yourself to remember while you are presenting. Now, this thing I'll be teaching you today, the memory enhancement, will not only help you as a speaker, as a public speaker, it will also help you to impress upon the minds of the audience so that the audience can remember and retain those things that you've said. So that's what they go home with. Very often we have speakers who come, they gyrate, especially in churches, and much respect to them. The delivery is fantastic, people shout, scream, but they don't go home with something. So what do you do as a speaker to leave an impression on the audience so that they can remember? So the memory enhancement is not only for you as a speaker, will also be for the person who's listening to you, who's ready to learn about it. If you're ready to learn, I want you to go on the comment section or the chat section and say, I'm ready, I'm ready, I'm ready, I'm ready. So we're just going to go straight up into my slides and see if I can show you what I have for you today. Don't forget to order for this book. It's by Eno Ekong. Eno Ekong is one of members of the faculty of the Podium Dynamics Academy. She comes to the offline class and she teaches on a very regular basis. She's an amazing woman. All of these things I shared with you, I learned them from the book. It's for adults, for people who are mature. You can learn a lot of things you need to learn. And probably once in a while, we'll come and share this. I actually did an overview. I most likely will take it one after the other very soon. And you can enjoy very much what she has put out there. So let's go right now and learn quickly how we can handle our memory, what we can do to our memory. such that it becomes so powerful. So powerful. Okay, let's see. Okay, let's see. Let's see. Okay, so memory enhancement for its effective public speaking delivery. So when you rehearse now, the goal about this and the truth about developing your memory is this. You have to learn how to repeat. Your repetition technique will help you to achieve better results. Some of us repeat, we rehearse, but we don't do it well. But here's what someone was saying. He said, when you rehearse knowledge and practice it often, it sticks. When you rehearse knowledge, people say rehearse, but it's rehearse knowledge and practice it often, it sticks. Now, there's somebody that just sent me a message, as I mentioned the word often, and he said that there's also the word often, and that's true. So the American use the word often, the British use the word often. Okay, so you can use the word often and often. American, British. Often is British, often is American. But the word soften is soften, S-O-F-T-N is purely British and I think American too. All right, the more often, I like to use the word often, it sounds, tushed, so I like that. The more often you share what you have learned, the stronger that information will become in your memory. This is by Steve Bronkhorst. I hope I didn't murder that word. I know it's German. So Steve Bronkhorst, however that's pronounced. But it's strong. The more often you share what you have learned, the stronger that information will become in your reality, in your memory. So that's how your memory works. When you teach, you will learn. So when you have a presentation to do, before you present it in front of the crowd, it is good to teach as many people as possible, of course. Belabor your husband, say, honey, sit down, I have a presentation to do, and then let him hear you go over it. Let him, observe you, observe your mannerisms, your body language. Let him hear the content, let him hear the logic, let him see how you transition, let him see all of that. So the more you teach, the better you work on your brain. So don't just practice with the recorder and practice with the don't practice with the mirror. You want to face an actual audience, an audience of one or two, your parents, your children, whoever they are. Let them get to hear you as you do your presentation. You can also watch out for feedback as you speak. So the more often you teach, the more you work your brain, and the more you keep that information right in your stuff. So now they say, and I want you to pay attention to this, they say that you can't teach an old dog new tricks, but when it comes to the brain, scientists have discovered that this old adage simply isn't true. When it comes to the brain, scientists have discovered that this old adage simply isn't true. The human brain has an astonishing ability to adapt and change, even into old age. The ability is known as neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity. You can go check what that means. It means the flexibility of your brain, the ability of your brain to keep stretching and stretching even to old age. You want to keep using your brain. So don't say, I'm going to school, I'm not going to school no more. You can keep learning as long as you tax your brain, as long as you engage your brain to very intelligent discourse or readings or viewership, your brain will work. Neurolasticity is a concept that your brain can stretch and get better. So don't come and say, oh, I'm old, I'm in my 50s, and my late 40s, I don't have the head for book. That's not true. You have the ability to still remain. But there are still people who have this issue called aphasia. Aphasia or aphasia, however that is pronounced. Aphasia or aphasia. Aphasia is a condition, it's a medical condition, and maybe the medical doctors will be able to tell us more about this medical condition. There are people who have it as a disorder. Aphasia or aphasia is a communication disorder that makes it hard to use words. There are people that because of stammering, because they stammer, they forget words or they find it difficult to say it. They know the words in their head, but they find it difficult to say the words, or they have the words in their head, somewhere in their memory, but they cannot locate it. They can't find it and they can't express it. It's a medical condition that science say is called aphasia. It can affect your speech, your writing, your ability to even understand language. Okay, and this aphasia is in degrees. Aphasia results from damage or injury in the language part of the brain. So there's a part of the brain that is responsible for your speaking, not just for your speaking, for your articulation, not just for your articulation, for language. And so if there's a damage or there's injury or there's stress on it, it will affect. And so it's more common in older adults, particularly those who have had a stroke will see. But we have conditions where young people experience aphasia. We'll probably do a better study of it and see how we can help you to overcome it. There are people who are supposedly normal who still suffer from aphasia, and they are like, this thing is so much, I forget my lines, or I want to express myself, I can't express myself, I literally stammer. And when we get to study about aphasia, we'll get to know that there are different kinds of aphasia. We have expressive aphasia, I'll discuss that later, not today. We have receptive aphasia, we have anomic aphasia, we have global aphasia, and we have primary progressive aphasia. From the word primary progressive, that means that you may start having that issue with you, your inability to express yourself, your ability to remember thoughts, to forget things, or to have them in your head but can't express them. That condition is called, and it's progressing. You may notice it now. If you notice it early enough, through therapy, and through a communication expert or a speech therapist, we can help you to get over that matter. So these are conditions that are medical and they will help you. Now, one of the things you must understand about the brain is that the brain works in very interesting manners. The brain, psychologists and yes, scientists have divided the brain into two parts, the right hemisphere and the left hemisphere. I'll show you this. I'll tell you how to spell hemisphere. If you look at this picture, I've done this assignment for you before, and you will notice when we're discussing icebreaker, I asked you what color do you see, and I'm sure that a few of you are looking at these things and saying, okay, the lace is white and the body is cream, and you're like, no, the lace can't be white. No, someone is saying, no, I can't. The lace can't be white. The lace cannot just be white. The lace is tortoise green or sea blue green, and the body of the shoe is gray, whatever that is. But if you have two different stuff, it means that the right brain is dominant if you see pink. If you see pink like this one here, if you see pink like this one here, is that what you saw when I showed you that first picture? It means that your right brain you saw pink and you saw white. It means that your right brain is dominant. If you saw green and gray, it means that your left brain is dominant. This is an interesting statistic. That means the audience you're speaking to, and even you yourself, you have the right hemisphere and the left hemisphere. Now, when you look at it critically, the left brain, and I was teaching some executive students today in the morning about how to use the windshield wiper method. For those of you who attended our transition in public speaking class, we discussed another formula to transition in public speaking, and we call it the windshield wiper method. And we said that the windshield wiper method puts into cognizance the different parts of the audience's brain. That you are aware that there are audiences that are predominantly left-sided in their orientation. They process things from the left side of the left hemisphere of their brain. And there are certain audiences who are right-sided because they process things. So let's look at a few things here. The left-sided people are very sequential, and the left-sided people are the ones who will see the color as gray. I mean, the body of the shoe as gray and the lace as white. The right-sided people, the creative people, will see pink and then they'll see white. Now, The left-sided people are sequential, they are detailed, they use words, they're particular about words and context, they're logical, they're particular about numbers, they're interested in measurements, they have strong recall of the past, very strong recall of the past. They are very particular about your grammar, the patterns, literal meaning, they are very literal, very literal. We have their content, name, recall, time awareness, component, science, and maths. They're very, very good at that. And later, then there are people that are on the right side that use the right side of their brain or the right hemisphere of their brain. They're so particular about simultaneous. They're very spontaneous and simultaneous. They're holistic. They look at the bigger picture. They look at pictures. When you do slides like this, they are catching the vibe based on the pictures that they're seeing. They are very intuitive. They're looking at shapes. They're looking at motion. They're very imaginative. They want to consider the future. They are particular about your intonation and your emphasis, your accents, the abstract meaning, while the other one is concerned about the literal meaning. The right-sided person is concerned about the abstract meaning, the figure of speech. They want to get things in context, not just content. In context, not just content. They are very particular about facial recognition. They can not remember your name, but they can remember your face. While the left-sided people, they will remember your name. They have spatial awareness. Spatial means they're very descriptive, and then they look at objects, arts, and music. So with that in mind, we can begin to see. You need to know what side of the brain you're using, and you want to begin to do certain things to improve your brain. What side of the brain are you using, and you want to do certain things to improve your brain. I'm going to just share a few ideas that will help you work on your brain. You've got to deliberately and intentionally, on a regular basis as a public speaker, work on your brain. So you give your brain a workout. That's the first thing you want to write down. Give your brain a workout. By the time you reach adulthood, your brain has developed millions of neural pathways that help you process and recall information quickly, solve familiar problems, and execute habitual tasks with a minimum mental effort. But if you always stick to this well-worn path, you aren't giving your brain the stimulation it needs to keep growing and developing. Our brains, let me know if you can still hear me. Our brains have created many pathways, familiar pathways. We need to shake things up a bit when we speak. I need to know if you can still hear me. Let me know if you can still hear me. Let me know if you can still hear me.
Yes, Coach.
Yes, we can hear you, sir.
Okay, fantastic. So I want to know I'll not just being alone. All right. So I'm going to go back right now and tell you what okay. So let's go back. Let's go back. Okay, so give your brain a workout. Deliberately work out your brain. Make sure your brain is working out. Work your brain up. I'll give you some ideas now. So 4 key elements to good brain boosting activities. You'll be surprised they're not as technical as you think. There are things that you should know, you should do. They may sound like cliches, sound like platitudes, sound like trites, but they are very powerful. Let me give you a few ones. Now, every time you want to do anything, it's the same 4 key elements of good brain boosting activity. Any activity you're going to do that will boost your brain should, number 1, teach you something new. So you want to deliberately learn something new, tax your brain to learn something new. If you are not a science student or you didn't do science, you don't have a science background, and you just heard me use the word aphasia, you're like, okay, A-P-H-A-S-I. That's, you document it, and then you go back and you do your research. You Google up. We started doing a few pronunciations here. You write them down and you go confirm. You're getting your brain to do something new, That stimulates your brain. No matter how intellectual demanding the activity, if it's something you're already good at, it's not a good brain exercise. If it's something you're already
We
good at,
can't
it's not a
see your
good brain exercise.
slides.
You want to be careful to say, hey guys, let me improve my brain. So the activity needs to be something that's unfamiliar and out of your comfort zone. You must learn how to break out of your comfort zone very regularly. I started teaching you guys to do a lot of video calls, YouTube videos, and you're like, I don't know how to do video. You're not unwilling to tax your brain. You want to try things and fail and encourage yourself, because that's how to strengthen your brain. To strengthen your brain, you need to keep learning and developing new skills. Even to your old. Remember, we talked about the concept neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity means that your brain has the capacity to keep stretching. It doesn't matter how long. So any brain activity that will stimulate your brain must be challenging. The best brain boosting activities demand your full and close attention. You want to engage in those kind of things, actually things that you're passionate about. It's not enough that you found an activity challenging at a point. It must still be something that requires mental effort. For example, learning to play a challenging new piece of music counts. Playing a difficult piece you've already memorized does not. If you're playing, or maybe you're playing a keyboard and you're playing something you already memorized, does not. But something that is difficult, when you're doing something difficult, when you're learning something difficult, that works for your brain. You notice that at the initial period, you start having a bit of headache, just slight headache. It's your brain working up, trying to process the data that you're receiving. It's good for you. You need to do that every now and then to shake up your brain. That activity of your brain enables you to not only retain things, but to recall when you're speaking. Because your brain has not been working very often, when you now want to do a presentation, it now finds it difficult, like it's a tough call for it. It's a tough call. But because regularly you are reading, you are internalizing, you're stretching, you're doing activities, you're doing your assignments, you're researching, your brain is working. When you have to speak, it's not difficult anymore. The next thing you also notice is that this skill, it must be a skill. This activity must be a skill that you can build on, that you can improve on. The brain boosting activity must be a skill that you can improve on. I do that. I challenge myself every month. I have goals. That's why goals are quite important for a speaker. I challenge myself. I started learning dictionary and grammar very, very recently. I think in late 2020. I started to study, to read, to internalize, to understand, and to help myself to get better, because the goal is to improve, and I keep working on it. And I do a lot of other things. I learn new areas. I break into new knowledge, science, philosophy, religion. I want to know things because I want to work my brain up and improve on it. Then, most importantly, an activity that will boost your brain must be rewarding. It must derive pleasure, so that, for example, if you did something right, if you're able to read a book and you read that book and you're able to finish one chapter a day, because you have a goal, I want to read a chapter a day, or I want to do a 5 minutes presentation, record that a day, and you succeeded, you must give your brain something to remember. You can go and give yourself ice cream, or buy yourself shawarma, or take yourself and do something that is pleasurable, so that the brain records that pleasurable activity. It now knows, wow, if I'm able to do this thing, I will get rewarded. All right. The pleasure of your appetite will send signals, will send endorphins to your brain and make your brain excited to do more tasking works in the future. So it must reward. Because so rewards supports the brain's learning process. Rewards supports the brain's learning process. It also supports the brain's retaining process. It also supports the brain's recall process. So choose activities that, while challenging, are still enjoyable and satisfying. Now, think of something new you've always wanted to try, like learning how to play guitar, making pottery, juggle, playing chess, speaking French, dancing the tango, or, tango. Tango, tango is a kind of dance. It's a dance where two people are dancing and they are in sync with each other. So there's this idiomatic expression that we hear very often. I'm sure you probably have heard it. They'll say, it takes two to tangle. We use the word tangle, T-A-N-G-L-E, as if you're tangling. It takes two to tangle. There's no word like tangle. The word, it takes two to tango, tango. Tango is a dance. It's a kind of dance that two people dance, you know. So you want to dance tango or master your golf swing. All these activities can help you improve your memory. So as long as you keep you being challenged and engaged. So you want to do activities such as that. All right, now it's very important that you use repetition or repetition. Repetition. You want to use repetition. When we say repetition, repetition is the principle for a lasting impression. You want to not just memorize, but internalize. Researchers have found that a short-term memory can become a long-term memory through repetition. Repetition. During the presentation design stage, consider adding trigger words. Now, your repetition should not just be anyhow. Your repetition should be, you know, should have a technique. And you want to think of trigger words, which will remind you of what to talk about on a particular slide or on your speaker's notes. So if you're going to use notes as you speak, you should have a word that will enable you, a trigger word that will enable you remember the next points. A trigger word. Trigger words are words that will trigger up your memory and will enable you to remember the next one. So as you're repeating, incorporate trigger words in your presentation. Now, the next thing you want to do to help your brain and to help your memory is to learn how to focus. Now, we live in a world that is very distracted. Our attention span is very limited. Some people say that the average person has between 18 to 20 minutes, the highest 18 to 20 minutes attention span. But we're already losing attention as we're having this conversation because you've not trained your mind and train your brain to focus so that you come for a Zoom class, you want to be multitasking, you want to be maybe doing stuff, doing that. You don't sit down, you're not writing, you're not engaging yourself. So that the more you train yourself to concentrate fully on any task, the better it will recall. So for better retention, putting away smartphone and focusing on one thing is the most productive approach. Distractions keep the brain from doing its best work. So focus. If you want to read the Bible, you keep your phones, everybody, you close the door and you focus on that activity. You're training your brain to stay focused, to stay very focused. Focus on the task. You have a presentation to do in Podium Dynamics Academy, you focus on it. You give all your energy, 1 hour of it today, or maybe 1 hour is too much for you. You say to yourself, okay, I'm going to do 10 minutes. 10 minutes today, tomorrow I'll do 10 minutes, and you don't fail. You condition your brain. Oh, tomorrow 10 minutes, 10 minutes, 10 minutes, like that. And you give that 10 minutes, you focus on the 10 minutes. I'm going to read one chapter a day. And that one chapter a day, you focus on reading it, you underline the book, you write down the margin, you take down notes in your diary, you focus on that activity. Your brain begins to realize that every time you're doing this activity, you retain things that way. You need to start activating your brain. Now, also, of course, you have to give yourself time. While you practice again and again and you focus, you want to give yourself time. When you rehearse knowledge and practice it, it will often stick. When you rehearse knowledge and practice it, it will often stick. We recommend practicing an important speech daily. Practicing an important speech daily. Most of you don't practice your speeches daily. You don't practice quotes daily. You want to be able to deliver on a subject matter when you have not done it several. You've not had many presentations. Do as many presentations as possible. That's why I've not done the flyer yet. I'll still flag it off. I think I told you 17. I want to start on 17 or so. And this 17th, let me give myself some time so I can put out that stuff. On the 20th, the goal is we're doing 90 days, do 30 speeches. Do many. The more you do it, you force you to tax yourself. Those 30 speeches, 7 minutes a day, 7 minutes for a speech. That will help you to become very good. A time will come when you want to do a presentation, your brain will not be scared. Your brain knows that we have done this before severally. And then it will become better. All right. So now let's look at some more. Now, of course, you need to give yourself some sleep. I know that some of you don't joke with your sleep. There's a big difference between the amount of sleep you can get by on and the amount you need to function at your best. If you're going to do a presentation, make sure that you give enough rest. People are so tensed about the stuff that they begin to, they are worried about it and so on. You need to give yourself some rest. The average man needs between 7.5 to 9 hours to be able to be at their best. Give yourself disease. Then, of course, the last thing I want to say today, and there are many more, okay, is you want to learn how to use pictures. Now, pictures for yourself. If you are a right-sided person, especially this will work for you. It will work for you. It will help you to keep things. Get pictures. Pictures will help you to remember. Pictures will not only help you to remember things, pictures will help you will help your audience to remember things. There's a Chinese word that says that what I see, I remember. What I hear, I forget. What I see, I remember. What I do, I experience. What I hear, I forget. What I see, I remember. What I do, I experience. What even edges that information into your system is when you do it. So when you practice public speaking, you do it, it will stay in your system more. That's the point of that Chinese word. Now, so pictures will speak 1,000 words. Moving pictures speak 10,000 words. When you have moving pictures, it speaks 10,000 words to you, and a strong impression also speak 10,000 words to other people. And then, of course, models. Models means tangible, the tangible thing, the tangible speaking prop of that thing you're about to say will, stick in your brain. So those are strategies you can use. I'm going to teach you next time, before I go on, how to use models. How to do something called chunking. There's something called chunking in memory retention. How to chunk, how to remember words, how to remember complex words by using the process called chunking. I'll teach you. I learned that from my mentor. His name is Anthony Robbins. Oh, I'm looking at my library now. I can't find that book here. Somebody has taken it away from here. All right. So now this is a picture. When I'm doing slides, I like to use pictures like this. This is a picture of a lady who is using the hologram in the way the world will be in the next future. This is a picture that speaks volume about e-commerce, and the future of e-commerce. That picture speaks volume. I don't have to say much, in my explaining. I will connect very much with the people who are right-sided, the right-brain people, and on and on. So that's where we're going to stop for today. I hope you got some value. I'm sure that you learned something. Let me know if you learned something. We'll take some questions, and then we'll close for today. Any question? Was I not talking to myself?
Yes, thank you, Coach. Good evening. It's Annie on the line, sir.
Okay, Annie, you have to find time and come to class, come to the academy so we can finalize your stuff, please.
I've been trying to get up to you. You've noticed, so
I changed my phone. And because I don't have those resources on my phone to send to you, has them in the back, so she's the only one that can do it. And when you reach out to me, if you just stop by once, pick those things, and then you can move on. All right. I want you to.
They want to give me my citation also. Remember, you promised to work on my citation for me.
I didn't hear that.
You see, they want to work on my citation for me also.
Yes, you can actually do your presentations here.
Remember, that they should be able to develop a personal profile for me, which I can use for public documents and